Well, good morning. It is officially June, specifically June 3rd, and want to bring you the latest data here in the Austin metro area. Now that we are in official summer, we're starting with interest rates still in the low sevens. Maybe if you have great credit, you'll be down into the sixes, but typically we're seeing about 7.1 to 7.2 on interest rates right now. If I take you down to the overall chart, this is for all of 2024 so far. The first quarter we were at or below 7%, and that was coming off high rates in October of last year. So it felt like a nice drop. And we had some pretty solid buyer activity in the first quarter, call it January, February, March. And we saw a nice increase in sales. We saw the median home price go up. But since then, we got to about April and we hit 7% and up, and it skyrocketed up to about 7.5. It came all the way back down by mid-May, and then, of course, has stayed above 7, kind of bounced, stayed above 7 since then. So what's happened is it's really slowed down buyer activity compared to normal for this time of year, call it the second quarter. So we saw a good first quarter and a not so great second quarter. Let's show you what that looks like in the data. So this is real time. This is number of active versus sold listings in the market. The green are the active homes at any one time for sale, and the blue is closed sold listings, not price, just how many have closed. So you can see we typically tapered off. We always do at the end of the year. We got to January, we had about 8,900 homes for sale, but look at the spike in listings. We're now up to almost 13,000 listings. It looks like it drops a little, but June just started. So really some agents are probably in there closing some of their end of May sales. And then of course, we'll see that bar continue to rise as we move into June. But if we look at blue, blue should kind of mirror this a little bit. If sales are trending similar to listings, it should kind of continue to go up. But what we've seen is March, April, and May, we're kind of seeing the number of sales flatline. And the reason is those higher interest rates. Once they stay, there kind of seems to be this 7 mentality I'm finding in the trends, where if we're below 7, there's a pretty good amount of buyer activity. And if we're above 7, it just tapers off. And I know that a lot of that's affordability, but it's also mental a little bit too. And so we're really seeing that flatten off. This is original price versus the sold price. So the original price, I look at that as kind of a seller sentiment. How confident or optimistic do they feel in listing their home and testing a price? Blue is where people are actually buying the homes on price. So you can see we were tapering down at the end of last year, both on price and on sales. We got down to January. Our median price was about $425 when we started the year. But of course, those interest rates had been dropping out of last fall. They stayed, below at or below 7 for most of the first 3 months. And that created more buyer activity. And it also created some optimism with sellers. And so we saw the median home price go up. But look what we're seeing now. We're seeing, oh, you know what? We got too optimistic. The market slowed down when the rates went up. There have been more price reductions lately. It's taking longer to sell homes. So what's happening is that median asking price is coming back down and getting a little closer to what buyers are actually wanting to pay for those properties. As of May, our median home price was about $458. Call it mid fours. And that's pretty consistent with what we've seen over the last really 3 or 4 years, where the level wants to be. So in 2021, 2023, and 2024, at this time of year, we've been around that 450 mark. So that's telling me that when the market was shooting up, 450 was acceptable. When the market's been coming down, we're kind of finding a level at 450 for the median price. So I think we're pretty close. Here's a look at that chart. This is going all the way back to January of 2014, so call it the last 10 years. So into the pandemic, you can see Austin was a nice, steady, appreciating market, doing really well. We probably went up 100 grand from 2024 to 2020 coming into the pandemic. Then we shot up another crazy amount, over probably 150 grand in median home value in about 2 years, unsustainably. So then when the rates went up, you can see, bam, we crashed way hard off the end of 2022 and into early 2023. Since then, we had another softened second half of last year. But again, we're kind of sitting around that 450 mark. And I think that's where we might see the market stabilize. until something happens. If rates continue to stay above 7, it might put some more downward pressure on our median home values. But of course, if they drop below 7 and show signs that they'll stay below 7, I think we'll see some more buyer demand come back into the market, of course, barring a recession or something that impacts their financing. But that gives you a look at our historical sales price trend for the last 10 years. Let's talk about rents too. So this is looking at April data. That's the last full data that we have. So the top box is single family homes. The bottom box is duplexes. So as you know, and I've told this story over and over, we are very mature on supply in the Austin market. We've built tons of multifamily units, meaning apartment complexes. On top of that, you have a number of sellers who maybe have had trouble selling their homes, pushed them into the rental market, at least for a year or two. Just hang on to the house. Hopefully the market improves and then they'll sell it. So on single family homes right now, leasing activity is up a bit. We're up about 6% higher than last year, but listings are up almost 14%, as I just mentioned. So more single family homes for lease. We're pretty flat. I'd call it soft, but I'd say we're pretty flat. Median values are about the same as we saw last year. So really a lot of it is people are just asking for the same rent that they did before. And so if you try to push your rents, I think you get in trouble. If you're willing to stay at the same price that you were last year, landlords are doing okay. And it's taking a little longer, of course, to get that home leased. Last year it'd be about a month. Now it's probably 5 or 6 weeks to get that home leased out. But inventory isn't crazy. It's about 3 months of inventory, but it just takes a little longer. So you really got to get that price just right. You can move that property. If we look at duplexes, they compete a little more with apartments. And so leasing is down about 8%. So we're seeing some of that fall out of the duplex market. Listings are up almost 27%. Huge increase. And of course, we're seeing softening in their rents. They're down about 5 to 6%. And again, part of that is if you know the duplex market, the ones that are fixed up well, which aren't as many of them, but if an owner has done a good job really remodeling that unit, they can probably get pretty decent rents. But a lot of these are beat up, they're older units. And so what's happening is for the same value, tenants can now go find a new apartment somewhere in the market. Maybe they don't have as many bedrooms, but they can get a nice new apartment or get some discounts on moving into an apartment. So you got to be really careful on the duplexes, on the quadplexes, on the condos, anything that might compete a little more with an apartment complex. We're seeing some softening in those rents. Let's look at a couple headlines that are juxtapositioned against each other. So best places to live in the United States. This is always every year, U.S. News and World Report. We're still in the top 10. Naples, Florida, number 1. Boise, Colorado Springs, the Carolinas, Huntsville, Alabama, Virginia Beach, and here's Austin at number 9. No shock that we've always been one of these top 10 best places to live kind of markets. But I laugh because I go to the Austin Business Journal, and then they have this headline, which is Pods is tracking cities that people are moving out of, and Austin is listed as one of the top move-out cities. Well, how are those two things together? Well, it all depends on the data. So the best places to live is looking at the metro area. This specific story is just looking at city limits. Big difference. So the city limits of Austin have had a little bit of outmigration, but where are they moving? They're moving to the suburbs. So right now, Austin was ranked 5th among cities with people moving out. But what I can tell you is most of our clients are simply moving to the suburbs, which it's not tracking. It's just tracking the city limits. Why do we know they're moving to the suburbs? It says the Austin Metro is far from stagnating. However, the other 4 counties that make up the Metro, Williamson, Hayes, Caldwell, Bastrop, all logged gains from migration during the last 12 months. And in addition, Georgetown, which is to the north, is the fastest growing city in America with at least 50,000 people. It's been number 1 in America for 3 years running. And the number 2 fastest growing city is Kyle in Hayes County to the south. So they are exploding. So the metro area is still booming, but the city limits of Austin, which got very expensive, of course, people are just flighting to find more affordability. So if you're a buyer right now, you have a lot of inventory to choose from. In fact, I'm going to go back to this chart. You have some great inventory to choose from. There's still incentives with new builders. There's incentives actually with resale sellers. there's a lot to look at. So if you can tolerate a 7 or higher % interest rate, and again, if you have really good credit, you're probably down in the sixes. We can also negotiate potentially to get some closing cost credits, help you buy down that interest rate even more. This is the time to go find inventory. So if you want to look and be someone who doesn't necessarily have to compete with a lot of buyers, this is probably the time to do it. If you are a seller right now, you just heard what I said. So you want to make sure that we price it well and be patient. This is not a market where homes are typically going to sell in a weekend anymore. On average, I think our days on market are about 80. That means it could take, on average, 2.5 months to get a contract and get under contract. So you got to be a little patient with the market. Obviously, your personal situation will dictate how quickly you need it to sell. But again, pricing it well, knowing your competition, and figuring out what can help you stand out against that competition is going to help move that property faster. I hope this was helpful. If you want to check out all our videos, make sure to look at our YouTube channel at Ryan Kelly Group. Click that subscribe button. You'll get them each and every week. And of course, if you know somebody looking to buy, sell, or invest in Austin, we'd love the opportunity to talk with them. It is summer, one of my favorite times of year. I don't care about the heat. I love summer. And my kids are home. They're having a good time in day camps. But hopefully you are off to a good start in June. Check out this video, and we'll talk to you next Monday. Thanks.